What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the CruitCast with me, Jason Suchomel. There's Cole Patterson on the screen with me, back for another edition. Everybody, couple things. Do us favors before we get into the recruiting talk. Prime Shrimp, our sponsor, man, it's been blowing up on Orange Bloods. Everybody loved it. Cole, I had some last night, dude. People on the board were talking about, first off, how much they've ordered, and they were saying, hey, they had surf and turf, and I was like, that sounds damn good. So you know what? Last night, dude, I made me a steak, made me some prime shrimp, their house seasoning, whatever, I forget exactly what they call it, but their main seasoning, and fantastic, dude. Me and my kids knocked that stuff out pretty quickly. So go to Prime Shrimp. You can see it up there, $20 off your first order. Promo code Orange Bloods. Also, hey, like the YouTube video for us. Subscribe to it. Do all those good things that help this channel grow for us. So, Cole, I feel like it's been a whirlwind for me personally, dude. Last time we recorded was about a week ago. I was in Las Vegas when we recorded. I came home on Wednesday night, turned around on Thursday and flew to Colorado to take my daughter up to some gymnastics thing up there, which was so it was all good, dude. It's been a crazy tour, but I'm proud to say, last time you and I recorded, remember, my luck was not off to the best of starts in Vegas, right? I told you I lost money. My flight out there was a nightmare. I came home ahead, dude. I ended up for only the second time in my 15 trips in Vegas, I came home with money in my pocket, more money than I had when I went out there. And you know what? Guess what I did with that money?
What'd you do?
Bought myself a new Yankees cap, dude.
I thought it looked different.
Yeah, I think I made like $500, which that's a lot of money to me, brother, in Vegas. And I spent 25 of it on myself on a new cap, and the rest went to my wife and my kids, and bought them a bunch of crap to bring home. So such is life when you're a dad of four, I guess. But
at least you got yourself a new hat.
Yeah, it's a new hat, and I'll wear this sucker for about 9 months probably until it falls apart. But so let's talk a little bit about what's happened in the last week, man. You were busy when I was out having fun and traveling. Mm-hmm. I know you went out. One of the big stories this week, or I guess last week technically, you went out and saw Anthony Hill, the 5-star linebacker for Denton Ryan. He had a nice write-up, including some thoughts on Texas in his visit plan. So kind of give us the latest on what you picked up in talking to Anthony Hill.
Yeah, I talked to Anthony Hill. I guess I was early last week, and funny enough, he wasn't practicing just because they were preparing for the track meet down in Austin. Mm-hmm. So they were kind of holding him and Caleb Hicks, a couple of their top guys out. They run track, but he was wearing a Texas shirt, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's like a gray shirt that had Longhorns and had the Texas logo and everything on it. But yeah, he kind of gave me talked to me about recruiting and kind of how things are going. And he down to 6 schools. Texas is one of those, with A&M, Alabama, Oklahoma, USC, and Miami also in that picture for him as well. And yeah, I mean, I think what it's going to come down to is the 3 schools in the region: Texas, Oklahoma, and Texas A&M. Seem to be battling it out there. He's excited to get down to Tuscaloosa and USC, and he has some ties to Miami with his dad's side of the family from there. But in the end, I think it's going to come down to those 3 schools. And might give A&M a slight lead right now, but interesting enough, he didn't give an official visit to A&M, at least not yet. He has scheduled 4 official visits. Obviously, he could take 5, and he has 6 finalists, so there'll be an odd team out. And he scheduled them to Texas, USC, Alabama, and Oklahoma. Obviously, A&M and Miami are the 2 left out for the moment. I expect probably A&M to get one of those, but still interesting right now, regardless. And I think Texas is in a good spot. He says he talks to the staff almost every day. Steve Sarkisian, Jeff Choate, Chris Gilbert, they've made him priority. And he mentioned getting down to Austin in June for, I think he said it was going to be like a pool party kind of deal, kind of like what they had last year. So, but yeah, I think Texas is right there for, he's the only 5-star linebacker in the class and big time player.
Yeah. And you said they made him a priority. Obviously they should. He's one of the top players in the country, and arguably the biggest need position for Texas. I mean, they need linebackers in numbers, and they need elite playmakers. They can't just keep taking, I hate to say marginal players, but I mean, they need elite players that are true difference makers at that position. Anthony Hill fits that bill.
For sure, yeah.
Cole, you mentioned he's not taking an official visit to A&M, but he's going to A&M on an unofficial visit in June, correct?
I think it's actually July.
July, okay.
Yeah.
What do you make of that? Like me, from a distance, I say, okay, he's not visiting A&M, but he is going to go there for an unofficial visit, and then maybe even likely go back for an official visit. To me, that's a weight on the side of the scale for A&M, in my opinion, from a distance. You talk to him, though. I mean, what's your perception on that?
Yeah, I mean, I can see how it's perceived that way, and it's probably close to the truth. But he seems pretty open about his recruitment. He doesn't really want to tip his hand one way or another. But yeah, I mean, if A&M gets that last official visit, last word with him, kind of like how we talked a couple weeks ago about Connor Stroh, Texas getting the last official visit. That last official visit is always big, always pretty important. If he takes that during the season, maybe closer to signing day, it's kind of like you said, A&M has that in their back pocket kind of thing that they can just pull out. And he obviously is very interested in A&M. He's well aware of the defensive line class they just signed. He talks with Javon Thomas, one of their DB commits, and a couple other guys are after. So A&M's definitely in the picture here, but I still think here an official visit. And I mean, obviously you have to get an OV to really be in the race. So that's kind of the first step for them, and being able to secure that, being getting him on campus that same weekend. It seems like it's going to be a pretty big weekend. Connor Stroh's one of the other guys is going to be there. I think Andre Kojo is going to be another guy. It seems like they're going to have a lot of OVs that weekend.
Yeah.
So I think it's pretty big for, at least get to secure that OV.
And it's the 24th he's coming in, correct?
Yeah, I think it's 24 through 26, I believe.
Yeah, that's looking to be their big visit weekend. I know, Cole, about a year ago, as I pull up this visit list, about a year ago, I kind of made a casual mention on Orange Bloods in one of my columns that I predicted Texas to get Anthony Hill. And the reason at that time was, man, he showed up for every damn recruiting event Texas would have. He'd always be in Austin. And, I knew Oklahoma would be a player, and A&M seems to have really surged. In talking to his dad fairly recently, I think it was after his last visit, which I don't even remember exactly. There have been so many visits, I can't remember when the last one was, to be honest. But his dad kind of told me, like, a lot of it's going to come down to he wants to play for a winning team and a dominant defense, right? Texas didn't show him either of those factors last year. A&M, you could argue, certainly showed it more than Texas did. Anthony's not a guy that's going to decide this summer, highly unlikely. So I think if Texas goes out in the fall, plays really well, and plays really good defense, I think the staff can really help its chances with Anthony Hill. I do, like you, I think it's going to come down to Texas or Texas A&M, maybe Oklahoma. But I think Texas is still, a lot of people have kind of written him off lately to A&M. You see a lot of fans like, oh, he's going to A&M, who cares? I don't get that perception. I think Texas is still in the race, just in talking to his dad, the conversations I've had with Anthony, the fact that he's been on campus probably a half dozen times over the last year. I think that, it's a pretty good sign. I think Texas is still in the mix, but I think they need to show him some stuff on the field next fall to close the deal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a theme for a lot of guys, just wanting to see Texas put a good product on the field. I think a later decision is the better for Texas, assuming that they're able to put a good product in the field in the fall. He told me that he believes that this is the kind of staff to change things around in Austin. He seems to be pretty confident in Jeff Choate and really the whole defensive staff down there. PK, he says he talks to really all of them all the time. It's a whole staff effort, and he thinks they're going to change it on offense and defense. And I think he's willing to, allow Texas to show him that he's the missing piece, that he can win. Like you said, he mentioned he wants to play for a winning program, and I think he's willing to give Texas that opportunity, show him that he can win down there.
Yeah, and one thing I did ask his dad, and I said, how important is early playing time? Is Texas really selling that, and that he's a key need position for them? And his dad was like, you know what, man, everybody's saying those same things. So, and he's a good enough prospect. I think he probably feels he can go in and compete early no matter where he goes. But you mentioned, Cole, that 24th weekend. I'm looking at the list that I have, and we'll certainly add names to this. But Ian Reed has confirmed he's going to be in, the offensive lineman out of Vandergrift. Connor Stroh, we mentioned. Andre Kojo, Anthony Hill, of course, Jaden Chapman, another offensive lineman. A nice little segue here. Another one, a borderline 5-star player, Tony Mitchell, defensive back out of Alabama, right?
Yeah.
He just kind of put on social media about a week and a half ago, hey, I'm taking a Texas visit June 24th. Kind of caught me and I think most people by surprise because Texas really, we haven't heard much about Tony Mitchell in Texas. He's a former Tennessee commitment. He's from Alabama, but this is a guy who ranks like 30th in the country. He's a potential 5-star player. So that's big news that he's coming to Texas. I actually talked to Tony on Sunday night. I called him just to kind of feel him out and get a little background on that visit and maybe preview the visit a little bit. And I'm glad I did because when I was talking to him, I said, hey, Tony, how did that visit get set up? I mean, is that something that's been in the works for a while? And it was funny because he and I were talking and his phone was cutting out, right? And he said, well, I was talking to blank, kind of went dead. And he said, you need to come check it out and blank, blah, 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 blah. And you'll really blank. And I was like, wait, talking to the coaches, you really like it? And I said, Tony, you're cutting out on me a little bit. Can we start from the beginning? And he goes, oh, sorry. And he found a better spot. And he goes, no, I'm talking to my boy, Johntay Cook. He said, I need to come out to Austin and I'll really like it and they'll treat you well. I was like, oh, that's a pretty interesting little development.
Yeah.
I'm glad we backtracked and started over. Just assume you were talking to the coaches. So I thought that was interesting. He said, wide receiver Johntay Cook, of course, kind of sold him a little bit on visiting Texas. And right now, that's the only official visit he has set up. He said he might do another one in the summer and then save the rest for the fall. So I think it's a pretty big development in terms of getting Tony Mitchell on campus. I think, Cole, that's a pretty good sign for Texas with Johntay Cook, though, right? I mean, am I misreading that or maybe overstating that? That with a guy like Johntay,
be a bad sign.
No, it can't. There's no way to spin that as a bad sign, right? And you have to find sometimes when you're covering recruiting, especially now, and these kids are so media savvy. You have to like read between the lines and find little clues and read the tea leaves or tree leaves, as they like to say on Orange Blood. So with Johntay, that's a pretty big tea leaf. If he's selling a recruit out of Alabama that's never been to Austin, hey, dude, come on, man. We've been talking a lot. Come check out Texas, man. And like, I don't know, maybe Johntay shows up that same weekend. I don't know. But, pretty big and interesting development on a couple fronts. Getting Tony Mitchell, a potential 5-star DB on campus, having Johntay Cook help get him on campus is a pretty nice development for Texas, right?
Yeah, it's pretty more significant that it's not a commit. It's not like it's Jamil Johnson reaching out to Tony Mitchell or something. Like it's Johntay Cook, who's arguably probably the second guy on their board, behind Arch Manning. So just to have him reaching out, wanting him to get down to Austin, speaking highly of Texas, I think it's pretty important. Like you said, you kind of have that's pretty big tea leaf right there.
Yeah, I still think with Johntay, and I think most people feel this. Ultimately, it comes down to Texas and Texas A&M. But Johntay's Johntay, dude. Things can change by the time we're done recording. Maybe something else comes out, and I have to change my tune. But if I'm betting right now, I do like Texas's chances a little bit more than I like A&M for a commitment from Johntay Cook, and we'll continue to monitor that one. I know you're going out. Actually, you're going to see Johntay on Thursday, correct, for a spring game?
Yeah, DeSoto has their spring game on Thursday. South Oak Cliff has theirs on Friday. So a few big Texas targets with Malik Muhammad from South Oak Cliff. So, this week.
Yeah, and Malik visited Texas. It was Mother's Day weekend. He came in Friday and Saturday. I did not have a chance to catch up with him before I left for my travels. So I've been trying to hit him up this week. But if I don't get a hold of him, Cole, you'll have an update from Malik later in the week. And obviously it'll be interesting to hear what Johntay has to say when you talk to him on Thursday. I want to talk about one more 2023 guy, and then I want to hit on a couple 2022 signees that I actually talked to this week. Texas put an offer on the table for Ashley Williams. This was on, what is today? Tuesday. So I guess it was Sunday. Ashley Williams, a defensive lineman out of Louisiana. I think you've talked to him, Cole, or you mentioned you had some contact. I actually did talk to Ashley Williams shortly after Texas offered him. And he said, yeah, man, the Texas staff came out and watched him a couple times in the spring. It was Terry Joseph. Terry Joseph went back and talked to the defensive line coach, Bo Davis, of course. They looked at his film and decided to go ahead and offer him. He's got Auburn has offered him recently, Florida State, obviously Texas, Michigan, Nebraska. He's got official visits set up for Nebraska and Minnesota. Did tell me he 100% wants to get to Texas for a visit. And he basically said, I said, is there any other schools you want to visit aside from those two you have set right now? He said, Texas for sure. And that's really about it. So that alone, the fact that he told me that an hour after Texas offered him, tells me this is a kid with a pretty strong interest in Texas. I like his film, man. 6'6", 220. He's got a frame he's going to have to grow into, but really explosive film, really dynamic playmaker off the edge. Texas certainly sees something they like in Ashley Williams. I don't know how much you've talked to him or what your communication has been, but your thoughts on Ashley Williams.
Yeah, I've talked with him for a little bit, even before Texas offered him. But he's a guy with a lot of upside. Like you said, he has good film. He plays at a really good program down in Louisiana as well.
State champion program.
State championship. They have Eli Holstein, one of the better quarterbacks in the class. So getting, big, but, tapping into that program wouldn't hurt as well either. So big to get him on campus, potentially for an official visit.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I want to bounce just a couple things. Two guys that I talked to, 2022 signees. I mean, people, listen, today's the 17th. Most of those guys are the guys that didn't enroll early. They're moving up on the 20, moving up, down, over to Austin, whatever it is, on the 28th. So we're like a week and a half out. So I talked to Jamon Tapp, kind of our dude. We both love Jamon Tapp, right? We've talked to him a bunch. I talked to Jamon last night, and Jamon gave me a pretty good interview, man. And I encourage everybody, go to orangebloods.com, check out my 321 column. I posted it this morning. It was pretty interesting. Like, in a little bit of backstory on Jamon, he committed to Texas pretty early. Actually, let me back up even further than that. I saw Jamon at the Rivals.com 5-Star Challenge last summer, and he was super high on Texas. He'd never been to Austin, right? But he kept telling me, oh, man, I can't wait to get there. Everybody says such great things about it. And there was just a genuine like for Texas that was pretty odd for a guy who hadn't been there, right? And he's from Louisiana and, LSU, of course, and everybody else involved, Alabama. Well, he ends up visiting and just loves his visit. I talked to him as he's leaving Austin on his official visit in June, loved it. He ends up committing to Texas in late August. And as I'm talking to him on Sunday, we're talking about off-season stuff and what he's been working on and what he's doing to get ready and stuff like that. And I said, well, let's reflect on your decision to commit to Texas. What was it about Texas? It was pretty interesting, man. Like when he committed, and I had to go back and look at the tweet, he had an edit with him wearing the UT football uniform, right? And then a second picture was a young man in a hospital bed flashing the Hook'em hand sign, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of people, interestingly, at the time thought that was sorry, my thing is blowing up. So I thought that was Jamon Tapp in a hospital bed flashing the hookup. And they're like, did he get injured or what's going on? I said, no, that's not Jamon. Well, interesting backstory, Cole. That was his cousin and it was from like 6-7 years ago. Sadly, his cousin passed away. His cousin that was in the hospital did this hand sign, not even knowing it was the Hook'em hand sign, right? Just, I don't know why, just whatever, whatever they do, thumbs up, but he just happened to do this with his hand. Mm-hmm. Jamon said he saw that picture and he goes, I kind of took it as a sign. He was leaning towards Texas anyways. He saw that picture and he goes, okay, that's a sign. I'm going to go ahead and commit to Texas. So kind of an interesting backstory, but I've got more on that. And yeah, pretty cool story to hear. So go check out my 321 for more on Jamon Tapp. And then the other guy I talked to just this morning, and this is new information for even you, Cole, Connor Robertson, the offensive lineman out of Westlake. He called me this morning. I'd called him last night. He called me. Connor's always great, man. I love that dude. But he called me back at like 8:30 this morning, and he's of course apologizing. I'm sorry I missed you. I'm like, dude, it's cool. You don't owe me anything. Don't worry about it. He calls me literally driving to school at 8:30 this morning, and we did an interview. And I'll tell you what I appreciate about Connor. I said, hey, you move up in like 12 days. I said, what's your mindset, man? Are you anxious, excited, nervous? What's going through your mind? Mm-hmm. And he goes, I'm nervous, but he goes, I'm also excited and ready to get started. And I said, you know what? I can appreciate that because 99% of times I ask these kids like, hey, what's your mindset? You're about to move up to Texas. And they're like, I'm not nervous at all. I'm like, bullshit, man. Come on. You're 18 years old. You're going off to college. It's a whole new world. You're starting a new level of football. You're going to be nervous, right? And Connor's like, yeah, dude, I mean, I'm nervous, but I'm also excited. But the most interesting part of my conversation from Connor, and I haven't put this on Orange Bloods yet, so I'm spilling my beans a little bit here. But I didn't realize this. He had a labrum injury his junior year in his left shoulder, happened against North Shore. And then spring football of his junior year, I guess after his junior season, he injured his right shoulder. So he had labrum injuries in both of his shoulders. Played through it his senior year, played through both of those. Okay, I didn't even know that. And I've talked to Connor a ton, but he kept that stuff under wraps, which you understand. He didn't want it getting out there if he's playing through it. He had off-season surgery. He had surgery in January. So, he toughed it out, and kind of tip of the cap for him for toughing it out and winning another state championship. But he's healthy now. He's ready to get to Austin. He's going to start off as a center for Texas. He's been working on his snaps and things of that nature because he hasn't played center, since like Pee Wee football, Pop Warner football. So, but he thinks it'll come pretty naturally to him. But a couple interesting conversations I had with 2022 guys. Like I said, those guys are going to be reporting here in about a week and a half. So I'm trying to hit all those guys up one more time before they get to Austin. But a couple interesting stories there I just wanted to kind of close with. But everybody keep an eye on Orange Bloods. Keep an eye on Cole. He's going to have a couple big stops later this week at DeSoto and South Oak Cliff. Cole, anything else on your plate or anything you want to get off your chest before we sign off on this?
No, just stay tuned to Orange Bloods. We should have some updates on Johntay Cook, Malik Muhammad, and more later this week. Everybody wants to read about those guys, so we'll have a lot of content.
Yeah, 2 big-time rivals, 100 members, 2 top priorities for Texas, and Cole will have updates on both of them. So
also, make sure to order some prime shrimp as well.
That's right. There you go, Cole. Now we're talking. Order some prime shrimp, subscribe, hit the like button. Use that promo code Orange Bloods for $20 off your first order. I'm telling you, man, you won't be disappointed. I had it last night. Cole's had it. Orange Bloods, the amount of shrimp they sold on Orange Bloods has been incredible. You know who even bought some prime shrimp, Cole? My parents, dude. I talked to my parents. I'm like, dude, y'all gotta try this. It's so good, and the price is
easy
so
to make too.
Yeah, dude. The ease. I mean, I cooked my steak last night. I brought it in, let it rest for like 5 minutes, and while it was resting, dropped that shrimp in. 4 minutes later, boom, that shrimp's done. I had it on the plate, steak. Oh, it was fantastic, man. So
there you go.
Can't get much better. The price is good. The delivery, the service, it's guaranteed or your money back. You'll love it, guys. Check it out. primeshrimp.com, promo Orange Bloods. All right, well, we'll be back maybe this weekend, early next week, whatever the case. We'll be back with some reports from Cole's school visits, spring game visits. I'll work the phones, see what I can round up on my end, and we'll obviously have, as always, in recruiting, plenty to talk about. So thanks, everybody, for watching the CruitCast. I'm Jason Suchomel. That's Cole Patterson. We'll talk to you soon.